Fine say that.
Today, why not take a look at the reviews of Super Mario World and F-Zero, featured in the first issue of the Super Famicom, a magazine published by SoftBank from 1990 to 1996, targeting a more mature audience than the famous weekly Famsu. Published on November 30, 1990, just a week after the release of the Super Famicom, these are most likely the first two reviews of launch titles. For example, Famisu's review wouldn't come until 3 weeks later. A game whose character is beloved worldwide. I never thought I would be so affected by a character whose age is unknown. My encounter with Mario dates back about 10 years. At that time, his face was not as distinct as it is today. Mario's image remains unchanged. In reality, some might think that the Super Famicom has incredible graphics, but that would be a mistake. With the release of the PC Engine in the Mega Drive, it's hard to argue that the Super Famicom has exceptional graphical capabilities. This assertion is not solely based on Mario's appearance but rather on a technical comparison. With such a famous game, it seems that everyone has created their own image of Mario. Although the graphics have changed significantly with Mario 1, 2, and 3, it hasn't really affected sales. Mario's image may vary from person to person, but the fact that it's represented in a way that everyone can more or less accept, while avoiding controversy, is admirable. Sound striving for perfection. Expectations for the soundtrack are high, given the excellent sound quality of the console. However, using a PCM sound source, the console being capable of handling two types of sound sources, requires a significant amount of data. Thus, to maintain high sound quality, it's necessary to increase the ROM capacity, which leads to a rise in cost. Despite this, Mario's soundtrack remains of superior quality and blends perfectly with the game. It's worth noting that musical successes are quite common in the video game world, and Mario also has its own standout tracks. The reason Mario is so praised: game balance. It seems doable, but it's not. It looks like you can finish it, but you can't. However, after a few attempts, you'll eventually succeed. That's what I think the charm of Super Mario is. The balance of the game is often interpreted as the game's difficulty, but in reality, it might be about not letting players give up too easily. Although the graphics have changed since 3, the balance remains just as impressive. Focus on the game's sense of rhythm. I'm not sure about the importance of the sense of speed in this game, but it would probably be wiser to prioritize rhythm over pure speed. Even without eliminating enemies, simply overcoming obstacles with a good rhythm can provide great satisfaction. The quality of rhythm is the central aspect and major draw of this series. Of course, the game also maintains a pleasant pace of progression this time around. There are two types of jumps, but my concern lies in the number of buttons to use. Although the distinction between two types of jumps has enriched the gameplay palette, it comes with complexity due to the increased number of buttons. However, this shouldn't be a problem for users familiar with the Mario series. Responsiveness remains excellent. The plot is no longer limited to the usual rescue of Princess Peach, captured by Bowser. This time, a new quest awaits us, visiting Yoshi's World, Dinosaur Land, adding a touch of originality. Additionally, the introduction of narration at the end of each world makes the game more accessible and user-friendly. Full of ingenious mechanisms. Mario's universe in this edition presents a progression very similar to Mario 3 on Famicom, including secret levels. This aspect greatly enriches the entertainment, allowing even those who have already completed the game to rediscover the joy of playing. After becoming stronger and obtaining Yoshi, it becomes difficult to be defeated and lose abilities, which is extremely gratifying. The ability to store items, just like in Mario 3, is an excellent feature. Packaging design. I'm the type to get rid of boxes, mainly because, until recently, packaging varied in size and differed from one manufacturer to another, without a standardized storage solution, which was quite cumbersome. However, if these packages now adopt a format similar to that of VHS video cassettes, it then becomes conceivable to use a video cassette storage unit, which is much more practical. The familiar illustration, as well as the brightly colored logo, reminiscent of that of the Super Famicom, adds a special appeal, even for the first Super Famicom game. Can we simply enjoy it? The manual provides an overview of Dinosaur Land, the game's setting, on the back, while the front details Mario's controls. Given the uniqueness of the controller, the controls may seem complex at first. Therefore, the arrangement designed to make this information easily accessible is sensible. Without other similar software already published, it's difficult to establish a direct comparison. It's challenging to assess solely based on capacity, but for a 4 megabit game at this price, it seems like a reasonable offer. However, with a cost of 8,000 yen, you could just as well be in the front rows of a wrestling match or at the first level of a concert at the Tokyo Dome. The real question is whether Super Mario World can provide a comparable level of excitement, and I'm inclined to believe so. In the future, this could become the norm. Other developers will have the challenge of designing action games that surpass this benchmark, which won't be an easy task. Overall evaluation. The production is refined, adorned with ingenious details that discreetly enrich the experience. This game is a worthy ambassador of the Super Famicom. The quality of design is impressive. Futuristic racing surpassing F1. In professional circles, F-Zero is very well received. While Mario primarily targets middle and high school students, F-Zero could also attract college students and beyond. Unparalleled speed sensation will captivate your heart. Graphics exploiting fast scrolling. The graphics are in line with the capabilities of the Super Famicom. The use of colors is successful, both when stationary and in motion. Whether it's when an enemy car approaches, when a ramp expands, or during vehicle movements, everything is handled smoothly. The design presents a foreign game atmosphere, except for the vehicles, which remain very simple. Given the ultra-fast scrolling in F-Zero, it's understood that the complexity of the design loses its importance if it can't be appreciated at very high speeds. Nevertheless, the addition of side landscapes or tunnels would have been, in my opinion, preferable. Subtle yet striking sound. When discussing sound quality, the focus is primarily on the performance of the PCM sound source. Regarding sound, attention is focused mainly on the capabilities of the PCM sound source. The tones of the background music have a realistic rhythmic section unique to PCM and sounds that previous FM sound sources couldn't express, such as brass with a distinctive attack or deep bass. However, it's somewhat unfortunate that the chosen sounds were relatively discreet. Regarding the tracks, although personal tastes vary, it's difficult to judge. Nevertheless, I don't think they detract from the game's ambience. They did, however, leave me with an impression as discreet as the sounds themselves. The sound effects are not extravagant, but engine noises, for example, are well executed. Especially during confrontations with enemy vehicles, the fact that the spatialization of the engine sound moves delicately from left to right depending on the player's and opponent's position significantly enriches the gaming experience. Purely satisfying speed pleasure. In racing games, the sensation of speed is just as crucial as gameplay in determining whether the game is enjoyable. However, it's not always necessary to replicate the exact sensation of real speed. In this regard, F-Zero offers an optimal speed sensation. It's notable that the game has opted for a higher perspective than before to facilitate track visualization. What piques my curiosity is the potential impact on the speed sensation of adding elements such as side scenery or tunnels, as mentioned in the graphics section. If the choice was made to simplify landscapes to maintain speed fluidity, it seems to be a wise decision. Center of gravity adjustment with L and R buttons. Regarding maneuverability, aside from the difficulty in engaging the brake due to the button layout on the controller, there are no major issues. However, for new players, the steering sensitivity may seem excessive, turns are too easy to make, which can be confusing. The most accomplished feature is adjusting the center of gravity using the L and R buttons. This functionality, in addition to steering, allows negotiating turns without sacrificing speed sensation. This is one of F-Zero's strengths. If a critique were to be made, it would be the desire to use the L and R buttons to manually change gears rather than adjusting the center of gravity. Nevertheless, considering that games launched simultaneously with the console must be easily accessible to everyone, the choice of adjusting the center of gravity was wise. The harmony between pilot and machine is thrilling. In the world of racing games, a scenario isn't necessarily essential. However, for F-Zero, which takes place in the near future, there is a certain curiosity about its story. In summary, F-Zero is very captivating. This is due to the combination of extremely high-speed driving, excellent maneuverability, diverse tracks, and good balance with opponent cars. Additionally, the presence of mechanisms such as jumps and forks, designed not to hinder gameplay, is also a notable asset. While playing, you'll naturally notice your body reacting during turns. Exemplary speed balance between cars. In the world of racing games, the real pleasure often lies in tight battles against competitors during Grand Prix races. However, in many racing games up to now, even in the presence of other vehicles, the balance between the player's car and those of opponents was generally poorly adjusted, leading the player to quickly take the lead and become isolated on the track. This situation frequently prompted players to turn to the training mode to practice time trials. From this perspective, I consider F-Zero's Grand Prix mode to be a racing game where the balance with opponents is well mastered, allowing full enjoyment of the confrontation. By choosing the expert difficulty level, it's necessary to remain fully focused to hope to catch up with computer-controlled cars, which is very appreciable. The training mode also offers the opportunity to use the same car as the computer for one-on-one duels. 7,000 yen, expensive or affordable? When I examined the packaging, its size seemed familiar before realizing that it corresponded to that of a VHS video cassette. Although this differs slightly from the format adopted by the PC Engine, which is that of a CD case, having a standard format is convenient for storage and seems like an excellent idea. The design also resembles that of a video cassette, which may spark interest. The recommended selling price is 7,000 yen, which is approximately 1,000 yen less than other Super Famicom games including a battery backup. For a Super Famicom game, this may seem affordable, but considering the global video game market, the price may seem somewhat high. Nevertheless, considering the high quality of the game and efforts to keep the price of the Super Famicom console low at 25,000 yen, the price of 7,000 yen doesn't necessarily represent a poor value for money. The manual is also pleasant. Essential information such as game rules and control methods are clearly explained with illustrations under the official rules section. The game, in its simplicity, is easily understandable. Additionally, Captain Falcon's story is presented in the form of an American comic book, a nice touch. It seems that this comic book was entrusted to a genuine American artist, and the dialogues, naturally in English, are accompanied by their translation. The coherence between this comic book and the game universe is particularly appreciated. Overall evaluation, 88/100. The speed, experience and fluidity of maneuverability offered by this game are unprecedented in the world of racing games up to now. Although I'm not a fan of the futuristic setting, I must admit that it's an impressive game.